Good morning, everyone. It's good to see a lot of friendly faces I haven't seen for a while, and welcome to all our new visitors today. Our sanctuary has been running services here for the last 117 years. Clay Nelson, our normal minister, is taking a break over summer, and we have lay-led services run. So it's myself, Kurt, and I'm joined today by Dave Rohe, who you'll see very soon.
As usual, I did a little research for my talk today, very little, and started with investigating the sounds a swan makes so I could comment on them this morning. Guess what? Swans are mute. Irony's great, isn't it? Yeah. Undeterred, I pressed on since I believe I have something worthwhile to say to this community, and besides, I like you all. My tendency, wherever I land, is to try to make something a bit better. We just sang "Enter, Rejoice, and Come In." What a great image, eh? I love that song. Don't be afraid of some change. Rather important imperative for an organization wanting to continually reinvent itself. What better way to welcome people into the fold than to energetically solicit ideas for change from interested new people in the church? Through my previous experiences at UU churches, I think I have a few ideas for us to get where we seem to want to go, to develop a sense of rejoicing and welcoming that is palpable in the church. So, muteness aside, this talk I'll do later this morning is about what I want to leave you with as Sharon and I head out on a new adventure or adventures beginning this fall or winter. Thus the title of the talk. Eh? As of April or May, we will be away to places as yet unknown, doing who knows what, and will likely be checking in irregularly with this group from then on. So, we will be around a few more months, available to discuss whatever, certainly available to discuss any points you feel need talking about after today. Coming attractions.
There's a theme running through today's service of the Swan. Today's chalice lighting comes from the legend of the flaming chalice on the back of Cygnus the Swan. We light this chalice for the light of truth, for the process of reason, for the warmth of love, for the freedom of beliefs, and for the energy of action, or inaction. There we go.
Well, hello again. On two or more previous occasions, once from this pulpit, I have talked with you about some of my experiences at the Unitarian Church in Augusta, Georgia, in the States. My previous two or more efforts at raising awareness and making a point were, I think, ineffective, mainly because I was a bit too indirect. Today, I want to be more direct. First, some relevant history. My involvement with the Augusta, Georgia Unitarian Church was in the 80s and the 90s, when I was active on the UUCA church board, the management committee for that board, for that church, on various committees like the Ministerial Selection Committee, then a much different committee later on. This later committee role came about when the church was experiencing serious uproar over an issue or apparent issue. The specifics are not pertinent, but the fact that people in the congregation were at quitting the church emotional levels is indicative of the level of seriousness of the uproar. What did that board do? The church certainly could not afford to lose members. At the time, the early 90s, the church had been waddling along for years with 60 to 80 pledging members, trying many tactics to grow in order to avoid the new sanctuary it had just built on the mantra, "If you build it, they will come." They didn't. In their efforts to increase the size of the congregation, the Augusta Church had lost track of a basic principle: the definition of church. People don't come to a church, the second visit anyway, for the building. They come for the community. A church is not a building, it's the people. The people at the UU Church in Augusta, Georgia, had been having a hard time well before the uproar and tried mightily to paper it over by making the building prettier. The tactic didn't work, but it left the flaws within the community intact, still rocking along at 60 to 80 members. What did the board do in response to this uproar, this existential challenge to the congregation? It installed what it called a mediation panel to help dig the group out of the emotional hole it had dug. I was on that panel, the later role I spoke of, with 4 other intrepid souls, all confirmed conflict avoiders, save one. 4 conflict avoiders and 1 professional counselor. What a crew. I'll get into what we did and the outcomes in a minute. First, I want to do a bit of audience participation, mainly as an illustration of what we have here at AUC. A church is the community of people, right? It runs, by definition, largely on volunteer help. So let's see what sort of community we have here. I will run through a few essential activities of the church, and if you are now or ever have been involved in any of these, please stand if you're able. I'll give short descriptions of these activities. Management committee. It runs the day-to-day operations of the church. Building committee, keeping the building standing and legal. You can stay standing. You got the energy. You work out, boy. Church services auction. It's an essential fundraiser every year. Peace and Social Justice Group. The title is its own definition. Lunch Bunch, a social group. Worship Support Committee provides when the pastor is away, obviously. Well, although he's here, but not doing much. Finance Committee. Make sure we have enough money in the bank and we spend it right. Provide flowers. Stand as a greeter. Organize and prepare morning tea after a service. Produced a church directory. Operate the technical aspects of a Sunday service and get it published on the internet. There are plenty of items that I've missed, but look around. This is a definition of a voluntary organization. This is the backbone of a church. Thank you. Have a seat. Now, does everyone participate to the same level? No. Does that mean that some folks are more important than others because of their unequal levels of participation? It can, but I honestly don't think that plays much of a role in the power structure of this church. What? Power structure? What power structure? Come on, guys. This is a human endeavor, and humans are social animals who organize themselves into societies with hierarchies. Voluntary organizations often have firmer hierarchies than commercial ones. The voluntary ones only get into trouble when the informal communications systems become rigidly set or fraught with secrets, sort of like dysfunctional families. That's what happened under the radar at the Unitarian Church in Augusta, Georgia. The community had solidified into cliques, each with secrets. Undeclared conflicts abounded. Issues had been swept under the rug for 20 plus years. The friendly Sunday morning interactions among these lovely folks had edges to them. No one enjoys conflict, so no one belled this cat. And the atmosphere of the church, which had wondrous bonhomie, was mostly for show. You know who didn't believe it? Visitors. Luckily, for the UU Church of Augusta, there was a blast that disallowed any delay in addressing the conflicts. I say luckily because without the uproar, I suspect the congregation would never have addressed the core issues it had. What did the 5 people on the mediation panel do? Not much, really. Just met with one another almost weekly for 5 years. We essentially worked on ourselves. We learned how to communicate with one another honestly and lovingly. We, with the help of a professional, organized communication workshops for the church and ourselves. We taught ourselves how to creatively interact with when issues arose. We attended church committee meetings, usually in pairs, to act as mediators, making sure that all at the meeting were heard. We made ourselves available if someone in the congregation needed to bring up an issue, and then we offered to go with that person as support, as he or she could address the issue directly with the other party involved. I can say with some confidence that there were 2 things we were able to accomplish. 1, we helped change the communication culture so people stopped interrupting one another and began using active listening skills. And 2, we reduced the tendency to triangulate issues or conflicts when they arose. They always do, you know. Conflicts are normal. How we deal with them is the key. People began speaking directly to the other party involved and doing it early when the issue was small. How long did it take for these changes to be fully effected? About 5 years. By the time the mediation panel was disbanded, Sharon and I had moved to a different town, 4.5 hours drive from Augusta. What were some outcomes? After 5 years, or maybe 6, the pledging membership in the Augusta Church was up to 140. The sanctuary that had been built no longer held everyone who wanted to attend, so they had to go to 2 services per Sunday. The atmosphere when entering the church on a Sunday was electric and attractive. And we didn't do much more than treat one another directly and kindly with active listening and real problem solving through heartfelt conversations. You know, church stuff. Auckland Unitarian Church has a marvelous congregation that has, over the last 100 years or so, solidified a bit. I suggest a small inoculation of real conversation, aided by active listening, as a first step to loosening the bonds of solidification, inducing a bit more rejoicing and active or exploration of new ideas. We certainly have the committed folks to get it done, just not the uproar that might push it along. I wonder if it can be accomplished without uproar. I suspect so, given the people available to make it happen. Amen.
Our meditation today is slightly different. Rather than being filled with silence, it will be filled with the sounds from the carnival of the animals, the swan. So sit back, close your eyes, and visualize swans.
So, cliches abound to describe the process of change, of renewal, such as omelets and eggs, journeys of many miles and first steps, etc., etc. Our advantage is we have 7 principles to guide us along on our omelet making on our journey. Amen. Right?